On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, it was supposed to be a weekend with low stakes. It was supposed to be a weekend where only the bubble teams were really locked in on what was going on. Every major conference, I think Duke clinched outright by beating Carolina, but every major conference was already, the conference race was already over heading into the weekend. There was supposed to be nothing to play for. This was supposed to be just a formality to get us to conference tournament week, and yet it was an all-time weekend of college basketball. It starts with it started on Friday. There were good games on Friday, but Saturday, St. John's Marquette. St. John's hits the buzzer beater. Zuby Ejiofor, they get the Kadari Richmond gets the steal. The ball bounces around. Zuby Ejiofor hits the shot at the buzzer. St. John's wins in overtime in Milwaukee. A game that Marquette had, a game that Marquette kind of needed to get their mojo back. Cam Jones played out of his mind. Everything was going well for Marquette against one of the better teams in the country, the best team in the Big East, and nonetheless, St. John's found a way to win. Then you get Bama Auburn rematch. An incredible game. Grant Nelson, LeBaron Philon were awesome for Bama, but then in the end, Mark Sears hits the game winner. Janai Broome hits the three to tie the game at the end of overtime. It was just back and forth all game. It was exactly the kind of game you want out of both of these teams. And Mark Sears hits a little floater at the buzzer to win that game. You get a Michigan State brawl, kerfuffle. Brawl is probably too strong of a word. It definitely is. A kerfuffle, a tiff.
The tempers were flaring, I'll tell you that.
We get that whole situation at the end of the Michigan State game. Again, Michigan State supposedly had nothing to play for. They had already clinched the 1 seed in the Big Ten, already won the conference outright. But that's how rivalries work, man. They came out and wanted to beat the ever-living fuck out of Michigan, and they were for a little while. Michigan came back a little bit there in the second half, but all the headlines were about the court. The logo, the mid-court logo during the free throw, and what the protocol should be by the visiting team when Michigan State players want to kiss their logo. Very, very, very funny incident that has, I guess, now happened twice. I guess logos in Michigan.
There's a common denominator, Titus.
I guess this is just becoming a thing. I didn't realize how big of a deal logos were, but I'm slowly learning that logos. Yeah, I guess logos are sacred. Logos are, I don't know. It was a funny little thing. We'll talk about that a little bit. Kansas is rolling low key. Kansas beats Arizona at home. They're starting to figure some things out a little bit. Kentucky gets a big win at Missouri. Wisconsin under the radar a little bit. The wheels are sort of falling off in Wisconsin. Maybe I need to revisit. Maybe I can't. I've been saying for a couple weeks now, Wisconsin might be the Big Ten's best shot, but John Tonji's not playing good basketball lately. John Tonji, the second everyone started saying John Tonji's your Big Ten Player of the Year, John Tonji has been coasting a little bit. Not great from Wisconsin and Tonji and company. Houston beats Baylor. I don't know. There's a lot going on. There was a ton of stuff. Did I even mention Duke? Duke beating North Carolina in Chapel Hill, a game that was ended up being great. It was a very, I mean, the first game was not a good game at all, and this was supposed to be a rivalry that always delivers is the line they always say. And there was a fear that Duke would do to Carolina what they did the first time, and Duke has been winning every game by 40 points. As of late, but Carolina's been playing well, and in this game, Carolina was hitting just insane shots. Cooper Flagg gets in foul trouble. Carolina gets up to I think a 7-point lead at one point in the second half, and we felt like we might have something, and Duke just doesn't go away, man. They're very, very good. Gets a big win at Carolina, and may have ended North Carolina's NCAA tournament hopes in the process. So I thought it was an awesome weekend. Not a lot of hardware being passed out that wasn't already passed out.
We're punching tickets, though.
But we are punching tickets. We're getting a little clearer picture on the tournament, and unfortunately for the Buckeyes, there was one big bubble game that sort of happened. But conference tournament week is here. The regular season is over. Let's talk about the games that happened this week and get excited for the best time of year. Let's jump into it. All right, should we start with Bama Auburn? That feels like the It was a great game, but two, I mean, those are the two of the better teams in the country, obviously, and now we're in a situation where Auburn has lost 2 in a row entering the SEC tournament, and suddenly, I guess that's the so. Well, we can talk about the Bama part in a second, but I think that's the story is the wheels aren't falling off for Auburn, but and entire season, Auburn is the best team in the country. We said last week that Auburn could lose every game by 100 and still probably be the number 1 overall seed. And they're putting it to the test.
I think you said 2 games ago they could lose the rest of the season and lose the first game of the SEC tourney, and they're still the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah.
We're about to find out.
Yeah, we might find that out. Yeah, so I guess, like, first of all, Chad Baker-Mazara, a guy that I've been worried about for a while, and I keep saying that about Auburn, is like I love the talent. I love the guards. You're basically surrounding Janai Broome with 4 guards you can shoot, and it's like this is unstoppable when they're rolling. The defense can come and go, but like when they're locked in, like Denver Jones is one of the best defenders in the country. Dylan Cardwell is a great defender. Like they have Baker-Mazara has so much fucking length. Like they can obviously be great defensively, but what makes them so good has been their offense. And I don't need anybody to explain to me what makes like Auburn being good or like how good they have been this year. Yet there are some things that you worry about, Tate. Baker-Mazara was one of them. That he is one of their better players, and he just cannot resist finding himself in these situations. It's something that you felt like maybe after last year when they lost in the NCAA tournament, pretty much because of him. He pretty much like Baker-Mazara gets ejected from that game. They missed his defense. They missed everything about him last year in the tournament against Yale. You would have hoped that somewhere along the line this year, especially as Auburn has emerged as one of the better teams in the country, and there for a while we thought they were the best team in the country. They still could be by the time it's all said and done. You would have hoped that like he would have got that out of his system, or he would have realized like how special this season is and kind of scaled it back a little bit. I feel like the opposite is happening. I feel like as we've gotten to March, as we're getting closer and closer to the higher stakes games, he's like ramping it up a little bit. Fucking elbows a guy in the back of the head, just completely unnecessary.
That was a cheap shot.
And this is just like a common thing with him. And yeah, like Auburn is very deep, and they have. They wouldn't miss Baker-Mazara in a first-round game this year to the extent that they missed him last year, obviously. They are a better team. They are a deeper team, and plus they're going to be a 1 seed this year and play 16 versus last year. I think they were 4 playing a 13. So, yeah, I'm not worried about that part. I am worried, though, that, like, he's going to do this against I'm not worried about the first-round exit or even probably the second round, but as the tournament progresses, I think that is a serious concern for Auburn, is that one of their better players, you can't, and the way that you might look at another guy and be like, he has problems with fouls and he might be in foul trouble in a big game. I look at Baker-Mazara and I'm like, he has a problem with flagrant twos. He might just, it's a serious concern, and I'm not saying that's why they lost this game, but like it is interesting that I pointed that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you have to give credit to the Mark Titus show for you were early on the call on that. Like you said, hey, one of their Achilles heels is that Baker-Mazara might just get ejected.
Yeah.
And then I think the biggest problem, like you said, is there has to be a certain level of trust where it's like, all right, this game doesn't matter. All right, we're not ramping up towards tournament time. This was senior day that he got honored before. This is their biggest rival. This is a huge game in just like Alabama, Auburn. Both teams are vying for either number 1 overall or number 1 seed, whatever it may be. And he gets ejected for a cheap shot in the back of the head.
Yeah.
You can't trust that. Like, there's no situation that is too big that he's going to like suck up his personal pride and just keep playing.
Yeah. No, it's a fair concern, and I think it was on just that's exactly why. That's a great example of why I'm worried about that. Now, that's not why Auburn lost the game. I think Auburn as a team, for what it's worth,
what are you going to say?
I want to use my words carefully. I don't think they're stupid, but there are times when I'm watching Auburn and I just want to like grab them all and shake them and just be like, what is wrong? Like, what is going on? How are you guys? They just make dumb mistakes. They don't seem to. I don't know. They're not all on the same page at all times. There is a little bit of my turn basketball. And I don't know if this has been the case with them all season and I just didn't notice it, or because for what it's worth, like Auburn is does have the best resume. I do think that even if they lose in the first round of the SEC tournament, they still should probably be the number 1 overall seed, unless like if there's a world where Duke beats everybody by like 50, you know, and then it becomes a debate. Whatever. Point is, Auburn has been great in their resume. I'm not trying to poke holes in it whatsoever, but you do look back on some of them and you're like, how many close games did they have where, you know, South Carolina, they very easily could have lost that game. Georgia, they were lucky to beat. Georgia's not a bad team, but how differently does this season look if they do lose at South Carolina? They do lose to Georgia. I think they had a close game against Tennessee, right? And they held on.
They beat them by 2 at home, yeah.
Texas played them well. Arkansas, as you remember, Arkansas was right there.
Chad Baker-Mazara,
right there with an upset, and Big Z couldn't hit shit in that game. And Auburn, and what I'm saying is, like, as dominant as it's felt like Auburn has been all year, they're not. There have been a lot of close calls that they pulled out in the end. We go all the way back to the non-conference. Iowa State was up 18 on them, and they had to claw back to win that one. And Houston almost beat.
Yep.
So I'm wondering, Tate, was this there the whole time, and they just kept winning these games? So I didn't really notice it until now that they've lost 2 in a row. It's like, oh, Auburn kind of shoots themselves in the foot a little bit. They're kind of erratic, very erratic at times. Has that been the case the whole season, or am I just now noticing it because they're losing? I don't know.
It's a very fair point to make, because at one point in the season it was already February, and we're like, their only loss on the entire season is to Duke in early December.
Yeah.
But then when you look back, now that it's not unraveling. But they've lost 2 in a row, and now you're looking back all along the way and being like, were there signs of this being able to occur? And it's starting to look like there were.
Yeah. They take some stupid shots. I don't know, but they're so hot. It's hard. It's like a fine line, because you want your guys to be confident, but they're just like, yeah, I don't know. They're way the defensive lapses at times, and some of the shot selection. It just like yeah. That's why I'm trying to. I don't want to be too harsh, but yeah, sometimes I watch them and I'm just like, this team is not as good as I think they are, and yet they are still maybe the best team in the country. It's like a you know what I mean? There's like a middle ground. It's like, yeah, you are the best team in the country, but you're not probably as good as you seem to be carrying yourself right now.
And I thought the end of the game was very telling as well, when Auburn has a chance. Auburn has a last-second shot, and they say, Bruce Pearl, what do you got for us? And he gets the ball to Janai Broome on like the wing, and he dribbles out the clock and then takes a left-handed fadeaway.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's not going to cut it if you guys are in a big game at the end. And then Nate Oates gets his chance. Credit to Nate Oates. That was an excellent set to get his best player, left-handed floater, strong hand in the paint with a gap to drive. I mean, that was a great play, and Janai Broome and Bruce Pearl did not have the same look earlier in the game.
I think Auburn has so much individual talent. I guess this is what I would say. Like, they have so much individual talent that the individual players do shine at different times, where you'll be watching an Auburn game and it's like Miles Kelly's turn, and he's just cannot miss, and he's we saw it against Kentucky at 9 threes, 8 threes, something like that. Janai Broome has obviously been great all season, and he has his stretches where he just takes over the game. Tahad Pettiford gets going and he takes over, and I just feel like Auburn is so talented, and they have so many of these guys that can just rip you to shreds. But I don't know how much they work together, or how much it is. It does sort of feel like at times it's like, oh, this is going to be the next 7 minutes is going to be Tahad Pettiford, and then he's going to pass it off to Miles Kelly, who's going to go nuts. Then Chad Baker-Mazara will have his 3-minute stretch where he, makes all sorts of crazy plays. And it doesn't feel like a cohesive thing. Now, they have so much talent, and they are so good. All these guys are so good that, like, it hasn't really been a problem, and I don't know, I wonder if that's starting to become more of an issue. Now, I will say this too, though. Grant Nelson played out of his mind, especially in that first half. And I think when he's playing that well, like, that's how Alabama went to the Final Four last year, was Grant Nelson was just on a tear. And it could just be that, like, Alabama play. I mean, Auburn did the loss to Texas A&M. Where A&M was crushing them on the glass. That I'm putting that aside. I'm focusing more on this Alabama game. That yes, Auburn has lost 2 in a row, but losing to Bama when Grant Nelson is playing, when we're getting that version of Grant Nelson, there's no shame really in losing to Alabama, but Auburn has lost 2 in a row. This is a team that had only lost 2 games up until that point. They doubled their loss total in the last week.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out like how this is how concerned we should be moving forward. How this is happening? Is this going to continue to happen? Because I do, as good as they are, they're not as cohesive as of a unit as I would like them to be. And also, I just think they're just like very, very erratic in terms of the Chad Baker Mazzara type stuff. Like not every player is elbowing people in the head, but I do feel like the Baker Mazzara mindset of like trickles down to the
identity
team,
culture. Yeah, I agree.
where it's like a little erratic, if that makes sense.
I also think
that's just the word that comes to mind is erratic.
I'm not sure where I land right now in the mental gymnastics of they had already clinched the SEC outright. So is it still their rivalry game? Yes. Is it still a home game? Yes. Is it still senior day? Yes. But you have to realize, as someone who's played, Mark, when there's nothing to quote unquote play for on the line, I would like to think that they had a little more in the tank, like focus wise, leading up if it was a huge game. Then don't get me wrong, it's still a rivalry game, it's still home, it's still senior day. But they didn't have win or lose. They're still
this game meant more to Bama than Auburn.
1,000%.
But I guess that worries me because that tells me that you're a team that's just waiting to flip the switch, and I don't love that. I don't love the idea of Auburn just like coasting to the NCAA tournament and then deciding once the Sweet 16 gets here, we'll flip the switch back. But yeah, I mean, we're splitting hairs on this game. Like the Texas A&M thing is its own. Like that was
separate.
That was way more concerning. That you
Right.
just got kind of dominated by Texas A&M from start to finish in that one. This game was, it was close throughout. Auburn, it felt like a game that Auburn had typically won. And I guess what I'm saying, Tate, is going back to like the season that they've had, the ball bounces Auburn's way in this one. Mark Sears misses, say they win in double overtime. That's another great win for Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying, what if this has been happening all season and the luck has sort of run out a little bit,
It's a fair point.
There have been a lot more close calls with Auburn this season that I think if those results flip, we look at this Auburn season completely differently. Mm-hmm. And they did, and they won the game, and they should get credit for that. But I'm trying to make sense of this because it is a little shocking, to be completely honest, that the team that we felt it was Duke and Auburn and everyone else, and for most people, they even though Duke had beaten Auburn, they were like Auburn's still probably better than Duke. And now the team that's like been head and shoulders better than everybody else in college basketball has 2 losses entering postseason play.
It's going to be interesting. So I would say that today when the final poll comes out, Auburn will not be the number 1 team in the country, AP-wise.
No way, yeah.
Right? Because they've lost 2 in a row and Duke's rolling. So.
Yeah.
But you're saying committee-wise.
Yeah, I think they still should. They just have so many quad 1 wins. It's crazy. It wasn't just because they're in the SEC. I mean, their non-conference was insane too.
I would keep them number 1 overall as well, but it is getting very easy. It is getting much more contentious to debate because remember, Duke has the head-to-head win. Right.
I think it could be. Duke could enter the conversation, but until I think there needs to be, like Auburn's going to play who? Arkansas or Ole Miss in the first game. Yeah, like if Auburn loses by 15 to Arkansas and Duke wins every game by 20 plus, I think there's a debate to be had. But I don't know. There's too much to be. I think Duke's still alive for the number 1 overall seed is what I'm saying. But there's still too much that needs to happen to like actually debate it right now.
You obviously know more than me in this, but can you recall a situation where a team has limped into the number 1 overall seed? 3 losses in a week would be substantial.
How many times has the number 1 overall seed lost 3 in a row entering the NCAA tournament?
I would venture to say never.
I would say never. There's no way.
And the fact that you're sitting here and you're not the only one, I'm probably on the same side, saying even if they do that, it should still be them as the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
That shows the body of work they've had.
Yeah. But that's this time of year that becomes not even just for the number 1 overall seed, for bubble, for seeding elsewhere, all that sort of thing. Like what is valued most, and I think the committee would like you to believe that they look at the totality of the season, and Auburn's win over Houston matters just as much as their loss, to Arkansas, say, if they lose to Arkansas in the SEC tournament. Like, those games carry equal weighting because it's all one season, and where it happens in the season doesn't matter. But I don't think it should work that way. I think how you're playing as of late should matter. I think that should factor in for sure. And not even just for this number one overall seed, for all sorts of things,
Yeah. And like I said, Duke, I know it's one game and you can't just put all, because if you want to play the transitive property, you can be like, they beat them. Duke did beat Auburn, and it is getting closer and closer and closer.
Yeah.
And Duke did beat Auburn.
They did. They beat Auburn. That's a fact.
Be interesting.
The Bama part of this, were you watching this thinking you're back in on Bama now?
In two different ways. One, I still don't think they are not a 1 seed right now. The people right now that are saying that they just beat Auburn, that did not jump Florida in my mind. They were still coming into this struggling. Alabama-wise, yeah, if you make shots and you score 93 points, against Auburn, yeah, you can. But we've seen situations where they've looked like a mess down the stretch.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're a win 6 games in a row team. Do you?
I don't think so. No, but this is Bama at their best, though. I mean, this is the version of Bama that I think Bama fans were wanting all season. The Grant Nelson's aggressive, and we've talked about that throughout the season. And Grant Nelson can be a doofus at times. Grant Nelson can just. Where
do you stand on the taunt?
What I don't full. That's the Auburn thing. Auburn does that.
Let me understand.
I
think Alabama's receiver, John Mechie, used to do this, but it kind of looks like a war eagle, right? So then Auburn did it to taunt Bama at times, and then when the Bama dude dunked on him,
right,
he did this.
Because I didn't know the football part of it, so it started in Bama. Auburn doing it.
Well, yeah, the announcer was like, he did the war eagle in his face, but it actually did start at
Bama
Alabama.
Started it
for sure. With that being said, and you can call me soft, you can call me whatever you want. That's a technical foul. Bruce Pearl looked like a baby doing it back to the ref, calling for the technical, but sitting here with no dog in the fight. How is Chad? I'll say Chad Baker-Mazara is getting technicals for doing this.
Yeah,
dude's dunking the ball and going like this. That's a technical foul.
You can't. Bruce Pearl can't complain.
He cannot.
You can't. That's a tough look. That's like being desperate for.
Hey, he hung on the rim.
Yeah, like you can't do that.
But if they're calling technicals for taunting and staring people down,
I think it
looks too.
Okay, so my stance on this is it goes across all sports. It's something I feel about football when you score touchdowns or get first downs or break a tackle or whatever, or make a crazy catch on a DB and you want to celebrate the catch, whatever. I think if you're doing it in a guy's face, if you're doing it at your opponent, that's a technical foul. That's a taunting penalty. That's whatever. That's bad. If you're just doing it because you're feeling good about yourself and you're doing it, and I guess like Grant Nelson just going like that, I don't have a problem with it. If he's looking at the guy and he's like,
and now, so if you look at the different fan bases on Twitter, they've all got different angles. Alabama's saying he's doing it to his bench, and Auburn's like he's doing it to Janai Broom's face. If
you yell "I'm him" to the stands,
fine.
If you yell in a guy's face, "I'm him," are guys saying "I'm him" anymore?
I don't know. We might be too old for that.
I think that's are they, Cody? I like how Cody's just like the. If Cody says so.
Our trendly.
Yeah, if Cody says it, then they must be doing it. Yeah, I didn't really have a problem. It looks goofy more than anything else. That's the other thing. It's like it's not that aggressive.
I want it to be the War Eagle. Is what I want it to be. It's way better if it's something that Auburn started and he just did it in his face. But either way, so Bama.
If Nelson is playing that aggressive and like I said throughout the season, Nelson can be a doofus who's like throwing the ball all over the gym, bricking threes like crazy, gets lost on defense. Like he is an up and down player for sure. But when he is on, you understand what why first of all why Bama went to the Final Four last year, but why Nate Oates is so high on the kid and why they were so highly thought of coming into this year. And a lot of it has to do with Grant Nelson. Now Mark Sears is the engine of that team, obviously, but when Nelson is playing that well, the sky's the limit for Bama, and especially on a night when Mark Sears wasn't good, or a day, I guess. They played a day game. But Mark Sears didn't have a great game scoring the ball. This was not one of the better games from Sears, even though he hit the game winner.
Right.
LeBaron Philon and Grant Nelson playing that way, if they play that well, and it's hard to ask for them to do that every single game, but they are good enough to conceivably do that. If they get that out of those two guys, and then Mark Sears just plays average basketball, yeah, I think Bama can make another Final Four run. But
where do you
I don't think they can win 6 in a row, though. I don't see them as a serious title threat.
Yeah, before this, they had lost 4 of 6, and we were talking about the 1-seed race. It's going to come down to them, Tennessee and Florida. They had just lost to the 2 teams they're competing with.
Yeah.
So I think at the end of the day, there's
how did they finish up that final stretch? Because we talked about that all basically all season. We were just like, holy shit, that last month for Bama is going to be crazy. They went 3-4 in the last 7.
Yeah, they went 3-4, but also their last week of the season, Saturday to Saturday, was the toughest stretch that any team in the country played. Tennessee, Florida, Auburn.
And Auburn.
They went 2-3. So I would feel I'm riding high if I'm an Alabama fan today, because it tells me Final Four hopes are still on, but I don't think we changed our seed, and I don't think we changed, where we're at in the SEC.
Yeah. Let me talk about Rhoback real quick. It's 2025, and it's basketball season. Rhoback is back. By now, you know how much we love Rhoback, but what we really love is all their new releases. Rhoback recently released their new men's huddle hoodie. It's different than their Hezzy hoodie, which you all have gotten to know, and it is awesome. The fabric has this really comfortable cotton poly blend, so it's both warm and has a nice stretch to it. I've been rocking it every day when I'm out and about. It has more of a lifestyle feel to it, and I am absolutely here for it, as the kids say. Second, the Rhoback Sprint joggers are my new favorite joggers. They are so easy to move in. You can rock them for a quick game of pickup or while you're just hanging around. They're lightweight, have the perfect amount of stretch while keeping a soft feel. So use code Titus on Rhoback.com for a generous 20% off your first purchase through the end of this week. That's RHOBACK.com, 20% off all hoodies, joggers, and more with code Titus. So I guess we can put a bow on the Auburn Bama part of it all. Massive win for Bama, obviously. After the last game when they played in Tuscaloosa, my takeaway was that Auburn's just better. That was like what I just kept saying, and that's very stupid and a reductionist way to just say something after a game. But that was throughout the entire game. I was like, Auburn just has better players. Auburn has a better understanding of what they're trying to do. Auburn is more dialed in. Auburn is, Alabama feels a little gimmicky at times. And yeah, for Bama to get a win on Auburn's home court and kind of respond in that way. I know that the first Auburn game was a little while ago, but still it did feel like they were motivated to right that wrong and change that narrative, and big win for Bama. And I do think Bama can make a Final Four. I still do feel though that this is a gimmicky-ish Bama team, and that's what I said about them a couple weeks ago. But at their when Bama's at their worst, it does feel like they're running like some sort of algorithm instead of just playing basketball, and that worries me about Bama, is that they just have stretches of like, they're obviously trying to shoot threes and get layups, and we all know that. We all know what Nate Oates is trying to do out there, but there is a middle ground, and I'm not saying they need to take more mid-range jumpers. I'm saying they need to have a better feel for an actual basketball game and the ebbs and flows of what a game brings and the energy in the gym. And I don't think you can just go into every game and run a simulator and on a computer, and it feels sometimes like Bama's trying to do that, and that's what I worry about. But they have the talent, and big win at Auburn, so congrats to Bama for that, I guess. Should we talk Duke Carolina? Yeah,
we have to.
I want to talk Duke Carolina because
Carolina played well.
Carolina played really well. I thought it was going to happen there for a second. They were RJ Davis in the first half. They ran out of gas, and it shouldn't have been much of a surprise because it was in the end we learned it was unsustainable. But boy, I was buying into it there for a second. I was like, what if they do this? What if they do it for 40 minutes? What if they just make the most absurd threes? I will say this, though. I cannot believe in a Duke-Carolina game. I couldn't believe what my eyes were seeing when Carolina's out there flopping, drawing fouls on Cooper Flag. And I felt like I was in a bizarro world where I'm watching a Duke North Carolina game and Carolina's the team flopping. I was like, what is this? This is crazy. This is breaking my brain. But it's what they needed to do. And I mean, like, you know, I would prefer they not do that. One, because I want to see Cooper Flag out there, but two, it's like it does feel a little cheap. And this is what like Carolina has complained about with Duke for 30 plus years at this point. Is that all? That's how Duke tries to win games, is by flopping. But I think Carolina knew going into the game that you're going to have to get Cooper Flag in foul trouble. You're going to have to make some absurd shots. You're going to have some moments of brilliance from RJ Davis. And you're going to have to play great defense. And I feel like the formula was working for a while, and they ultimately just ran out of gas, and Duke is just too good. But, yeah, it was way more entertaining of a game, which is crazy to say about a Duke-Carolina game because you should never have to, like, talk yourself into maybe this being a good game. They should always be awesome. But it was way more entertaining than I expected it to be, especially when Duke jumped out to a huge – like, it felt like Duke was going to score like 110 points there for a second for, like, you know, 3/4 of the first half. It felt like 3/4 of the first half. I don't know why I said it like that.
That's
3/4 of the first half is what?
3/8 of the game.
Yeah, for the first 3/8, the first 3/8 of the game, it felt like Duke was going to end up with like 110 points, and they were just going to blow them out. But Carolina wouldn't go away. But yeah, I thought it was an awesome game.
I thought it was a telltale of how good Duke is, because yeah, Duke goes out big, whatever. Carolina doesn't go away. Carolina starts shooting the shit out of the ball. Duke still wins this game by 13 points in a very balanced effort. Cooper Flag 15, Knipple 17, Proctor does his job, gets 16, Sion James 16. They're bringing dudes off the bench. Malik Brown off the bench with the defense he plays.
He's awesome.
And then they can bring in Mason Gillis to knock down shots, whatever it may be. I think I'm starting to flip on all year. I've been carrying the Auburn water. This Duke team's really good.
Can I say, Cody, cut this part. Don't turn the microphones off, because I'm scared to say this, and I don't want this to actually be held against me, but I think I believe it in my core, Tate. I think this Duke team is all-time good. I think this Duke team is fucking awesome, and I think I've teased it all season. You know that. Well, I watched the Arizona State scrimmage, the televised scrimmage, and I came in the next day and I was like, God damn, this team is unreal. And yeah, they've lost some games. They've lost 3 games, obviously, and they've you know, they early in the season they had some freshman moments against experienced teams, and you know that's been kind of the, if you're picking nits, you look at the end of some of these close games and you worry about, you know, when the tournament gets here and the pressure's turned up, are they gonna be able to figure it out in these moments? I think the Duke team you're seeing now is completely different, certainly completely different than the Duke team you saw at the start of the year. The talent, they had the talent at the start of the year, but they are so dialed in. They are so cohesive on defense. Now, against Carolina, it looked like their defense wasn't as good, but if you were like actually paying attention to what was going on, Carolina was just hitting.
And they gave up 27 points in the second half.
They were just playing hero ball, Carolina. So like that stretch where it was like Carolina was keeping it close and Carolina built a lead, you know, you might be watching that game saying, I thought Duke's defense was supposed to be good. What the hell is going on here? What was going on is RJ Davis. There's no answer for RJ Davis if RJ Davis is making shots. Like, you can't. He's unguardable, and he'll take hero shots, and there's kind of nothing you can do. And that was trickling down throughout Carolina. I mean, they were hitting everything. But I think, I don't know. I'm scared to say it because the ACC schedule does give me pause. That's the only thing I'm worried about. But I wish I had more confidence in myself, Tate, because I badly want to just puff my chest and be like, I think this Duke team is one of the best teams in the history of Duke basketball.
Wow.
Even. They are so fucking good at every position. They have 6'5" is the shortest guy that sees the floor. They have Isaiah. They bring Isaiah Evans off the bench, and there are some games they don't even, like, he didn't even do anything in this game. Isaiah Evans he got fouled on 1-3, hit his 3 free throws, and then went back to the Isaiah Evans, as you remember, against Auburn, comes in and has 18 points in the first half. He's going to be an NBA player. Cooper Flag is
I don't know if you saw.
Cooper Flag's unreal. Con Knipple has become. I think I said this about him last time we talked about him. Maybe I didn't, but I thought it and forgot to say it. I think Con Knipple would be a first-team All-American on just about any other team, and he's just kind of overshadowed by Cooper Flag. He's an unreal talent. Malawach is a little raw, obviously, but he's got such long arms and
7'2".
athleticism. Tyrese Proctor's can be great when he's rolling. Sion James is quietly like the engine that's making them go, which isn't even true because it is Cooper Flag, but I'm just trying to like give him some praise. Malik Brown is maybe the best. Like they are just so fucking loaded at every position. I don't know, man. I'm doing my best and I get carried away with Duke, but it's not even just me and my eye test. Like all the algorithms are saying the same thing, you know?
No, I totally agree. And I just the two nitpicks that critics can have on Duke right now are they're beating up on a bad ACC. Let's be very clear. The ACC is not what it used to be. Everyone knows that. The ACC, where they're going to have 3 teams in the tournament lockwise, they are not beating up on a bad ACC. They are kicking the ever-loving piss out of the ACC. And it's not, guys, they're not playing Miami every game.
Yeah.
Like they just played North Carolina. They just played Wake Forest.
At North Carolina in a desperate situation.
If North Carolina wins, they punch their ticket. If they don't, they're probably done for the year unless they win the ACC tournament. And they go in there and they hold a North Carolina team that's playing in the 80s and 90s over the last couple of months to 69 points, 27 points in the second half. They are not there are teams that play in bad conferences. Every year there's like, oh, this conference is down. What Duke is doing to this bad conference is demolishing them. But I do want to ask you this. They do have 3 losses. That's it. But the one common denominator in all 3 losses is very funny that it's Cooper Flag slipping or tripping or spinning at the end of the game. Is that in a cause for concern, 1 to 100? Where are you at?
Like 20 something.
Very low, right?
Yeah, I don't because
it's just funny. I think
first of all, 2 of those happened before Thanksgiving.
But they were so
it's like,
similar.
They were similar, but it was like you have a 17-year-old kid playing against 2 teams, and it's not just him. It's like Con Knipple's a freshman, obviously. Malo, they have so many young players, and they were playing against Kansas and Kentucky. They're both just like a bunch of they're a team full of seniors and juniors and older players. So like early in the season, a young team, quote unquote, choking down the stretch against experienced team is not exactly a shock to me. You can point to the Clemson situation and say they haven't figured. It was still a problem in February against Clemson. But I don't think I'm that concerned. I think since that Clemson game, they've become so dialed in that like I honestly feel like there could be a chance that Duke is. We see like a UConn type run from Duke in the tournament where it doesn't even become a problem. Which is honestly, I guess, and the only it's literally you just go back to the ACC schedule of just like of being concerned of like how much are they actually tested. They beat Illinois by 43 on a neutral court though, Tate.
Worst loss in program history.
They beat Illinois by 43 on a neutral court, so it's not even just the ACC. So you do like I do want to see them against other elite teams, and they did play Auburn earlier in the year and beat Auburn, but like that you do worry about that. How much are they going up against the upper echelon of college basketball this year? But the way they're handling their business is insane, and it's not just they're not just beating up on bad teams. It's like if you're watching how they're going about it, their defense is so good. They have so many guys that can beat you offensively, and Cooper Flag is like just. He is – I got to be careful because I don't want to sound like a stereotype talking about a white basketball player, but he really truly is – like his motor is fucking insane.
Smart.
He's so smart too. It's hard to talk about him because it sounds like you're just saying stereotypes about white basketball players. But I'll be goddamn, dude. Those are the 2 things that stand out to you is how smart he is and how he like can – figure out like there's so many games you watch him and he starts a little slow or it feels like he's starting slow, but he's almost like got a Rubik's Cube in front of him and he's just kind of figuring out how to turn each part of the defense to open up this guy who's now spotting up in the corner. And now, okay, that guy, now Con Knipple hit that 3 in the corner. Now when I spin this way, they're not going to help as much and I'm going to have, the left-handed finish or this he's just like, he can break down defenses. He's so smart about it. Mm-hmm. But I think the thing that stands out to me the most about that kid is just his motor. He's just like so from every second he's on the court. He's trying to impact the game in every way. And I think when you put all the talent that Duke has around him and they're playing so well together, you know, I feel comfortable saying that, man. I've watched a lot of Duke teams through the years. Obviously, you know, I'm not alone in that. Everybody that follows college basketball has opinions on Duke. It seems crazy to say it because none of these guys are in the NBA, and you look back on some of the other teams and you're like, dude, what about this team that had all these NBA guys? What about the 2019 team with Zion and RJ Barrett, and that team was fucking loaded too. That team didn't have the pieces that fit together like this team did. That team didn't have the depth that this team has.
This team's defense that's the difference in my opinion is they're going to go into a game and they are so long, they're so tall, they're so athletic. Cooper Flagg is so smart, they're so cohesive that I don't see a situation. I don't know. I don't see how this team loses before the Final Four in that way.
I'll put it this way because I get hesitant because I know how the NCAA tournament works and crazy shit happens. And if Duke loses and doesn't win the national championship, you know, you can't be stunned by it. That's how the sport works. That's why we call it March Madness. We don't call it March very predictable, and we all saw it coming. So that's what, like, I want to glaze Duke, but it's like, you know, you're scared of a trip up happening in the tournament. But I'll say it that way, that I would be actually stunned if they don't make the Final Four. I think I would be stunned if Duke did not make the Final Four this year.
I agree with that. The only thing,
unless there's like an injury or something, unless, like, you know, obviously something crazy happens, like I'm talking, it would be a stunning turn of events.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's how I think they're that good too. My only issue, and this comes from just playing, coaching, watching, whatever it may be, I'm not saying Cooper Flagg's going to slip at the end of the game. I'm not saying Cooper Flagg's going to spin and turn over at the end of the game. What I am saying is they've played like 2 or 3 single-digit games this year since the calendar turned.
Yeah.
At some point in the tournament, unless they just have this UConn-type run that you're talking about, at some point there's going to be a game where they're up 4 with 3 to go. And they, as good as you can be, as good as your defense is, as good as Cooper Flagg is, they have very little experience in closing out games because they've been so good.
Yeah.
That would give me cause for concern.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know.
Or just beat everyone by 30.
I'm not saying they're the best team Duke's ever had. I'm saying that I think the path is there for them to be an all-time great team. I'll just put it that way. That I think it is a very likely scenario that Duke just rips through this tournament, is your national champion, and we look back on this season and we're just like, yeah, I mean, that's one of the one of the better college basketball teams I've ever seen.
Do you think they rip through the ACC tournament here? Does it? Because I would say they're solidified as a 1 seed, and it's pretty sure they're not going to be the number 1 overall seed. So I don't know. They're going to find a situation where they might be playing North Carolina in the semis, and North Carolina's still trying to get in.
Still trying to find a way. Yeah, I mean, I expect them to. Yeah, I expect them to. I think Duke is pretty clearly the best team in the country to me, and they're, you know, there's nobody in the ACC that's really even close to them. And I know Clemson beat them, but since the Clemson loss, they are so dialed in, it's crazy. And now Malik Brown's healthy, and they just have so many iterations of what their team can be. By the way, like they are defensive. They are great defensively, but they can put so many shooters on the floor. And they had that stretch where they made like 10 straight field goals against Carolina, and Tyrese Proctor was hitting everything. And I don't know, they just look like an NBA team out there. So yeah, Con Knippel's fucking awesome. I don't know. The more I watch Duke, the more I get carried away just thinking like this team, like. Don't get me wrong. People are gonna take this the wrong way. I don't think I'm not ready to crown them as like the greatest team in college basketball history. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there is a world where, like, I do think that they're in the mix of like one of the better teams in the modern era. Yeah.
I have a question for you going into the tournament here, because Duke always carries this certain like aura, this certain weight about them. I like this Duke team. You like this Duke team. But when it gets to the tournament, is the nation going to be excited to see Duke on the ropes? Are they going to want to see Cooper Flagg win it all? It's just such a different Duke team.
It's hard because, everybody hates Duke, and you see the jerseys. And
you're like, the number 1 guy, but you love this team.
I hate Duke, as much as anybody. I guess not. That's not true, because I love this team so much, but I traditionally am the guy that's cheering for Duke to lose in the first round. I think we should cheer for Duke to make the Final Four, and in the same way that Kentucky in 2015 made the Final Four, and then it's anyone's game. But you want them to get there. You want them to get to the biggest stage, and then watch what happens next. Because like the Zion team losing to Michigan State in the Elite Eight was kind of a bummer. Obviously not for Michigan State fans. It was a crazy outcome, and I think a lot of people were losing their minds when it happened, and that's why we love the tournament and all that. But I would have liked the lead up to the Final Four, having them there would have made that Final Four a little more compelling. And I think the 2015 Final Four was awesome for that reason, because you had undefeated Kentucky, but you also had I don't think anybody expected Michigan State to actually win that year, but you had Wisconsin and Duke who could both conceivably win the national championship, and it just made it really interesting. So I think we should be cheering for Duke to make the Final Four, and then after that, if you want to be a Duke hater, go for it. Yeah. Having said all that, like if they do lose in the second round, and they like point,
that would be sad.
Laugh.
My official answer is that would be sad.
I think it would be a bummer. I enjoy watching them play, and I love Cooper Flag. And did you see the dunk he had on and then he does like the little bit of the chin up and he's swinging, and they cut to his parents, and his mom's just going, "On your fucking head."
I can't believe we didn't talk about that.
On your fucking.
I saw that live.
His mom just going, "On your fucking head," to the whole Dean Dome. No, I love the kid. I love this Duke team. They're so likable and they're so fun to watch, and it's confusing to, I don't know, for men of a certain age that grew up watching, Coach K in his heyday, watching a Duke Carolina team, and not only finding yourself saying, "Wow, Duke is very likable," but then also seeing Carolina kind of flopping around out there. And Carolina has the team of guys who are fringe NBA players, and you're not really sure what their basketball future holds, and Duke is the team full of lottery picks. What a role reversal that is. What a role reversal. Very, very confusing times we're living in. I'll tell you one thing that's not confusing is using JackPocket. Order lottery tickets right from your phone with JackPocket, America's #1 lottery app. JackPocket has so many lottery games to choose from. They have Powerball, Mega Millions, and all other official state lottery games. Best of all, new customers get your first lottery ticket free using our code Titus at checkout. Download JackPocket now, and don't forget to use code Titus. JackPocket, America's #1 lottery app, an official partner of Barstool Sports. I wish I wasn't as much of a pussy, I guess is what I'm saying, because I want to just say that Duke is. I want to be like, Duke's going to win the national championship. That's what I feel.
Well, we're filling out brackets.
When the bracket comes out,
you're taking Duke.
I'm going to take Duke to win the national championship. Yeah, I'm going to take Duke, and then they're not going to win, and then I'm going to be like, why did I do that? But I just can't. You can't. Every time I watch them, I'm just like, this team is on a different level, and yeah, they're something, man. St. John's Marquette. St. John's wins in Milwaukee. I was impressed with Marquette with how they played. Marquette is they're the 5 seed in the Big East tournament. And last time we talked about them, I made that point of just like, man, I thought Cam Jones was going to be more relevant in my life. He's been putting up numbers, but it's just kind of been not as big a stakes as I was hoping for. I was hoping we'd see Cam Jones have monster performances against the best of the best in the Big East, and we'd all be talking about it the next day and everything. He did that. I mean, in this game, he was fucking awesome. That felt like Marquette was going to pull off the upset. But St. John's is R.J. Lewis is on a different level right now. The defense is unreal, and they are just completely bought in. And I cannot get enough of this St. John's team. What a win for them. For a team that, we keep saying that over and over, has nothing to play for.
Right, that was...
and Marquette does sort of, Marquette's going to make the tournament. Marquette's fine. Marquette is, it's not like they've hit rock bottom, but Marquette really needed this win to get their mojo back.
That was my big takeaway. And
St. John's didn't, and St. John's still won the game.
Tough collapse at the end of the game for Marquette, though.
Yeah.
That I don't know. It is what it is, but St. John's, I think St. John's is the best team. They're playing the best right now. I do expect them to just roll through the Big East tournament this weekend too. And,
in the Garden.
And it's going to be a popular it's going to be an intriguing selection Sunday when St. John's rolls out. Are they going to be a 2 seed, 3 seed, whatever?
I think they're a 2 now, right? I think they're Wisconsin has fallen off. I don't know if Wisconsin was ever.
But Michigan State
Michigan
has
State
jumped
is
up
back.
hard. Texas Tech's in there.
So you got your 2 other SEC teams, because there's 3 SEC teams fighting for the last 1 seed. So you got, say it's Bama and Tennessee if you think Florida's the last one. Those are going to be 2 seeds. And then Michigan State is probably
So
your
it comes
third
down
2
to
seed.
St. John's, Texas Tech.
Yeah. I'd probably give it to St. John's.
It'll be interesting.
I'd probably give it to St. John's. So I got to figure out. I think I'm going to do all American teams on Thursday. I got to figure out what to do with RJ Lewis, because he's been fucking awesome. He is. The offense for St. John's is obviously the big question mark.
Mm-hmm.
But he's shooting well. He's scored. What do you have? 28 in this one.
Yeah.
And I think the concerns about. He's 3 for 7 from 3. Yeah, he had 28 points, 10 for 19 from the field. The concerns of the 3-point shooting are real as a team, but St. John's has capable guys, and like there are when RJ Lewis shoots open shots, like I think they're going in, and I don't know. I don't think St. John's can win the national championship, because I do think that eventually against a great team they're gonna need to make more shots than they're capable of. But I don't think their offense needs to be. They don't need to have Auburn's offense. I think their defense is so disruptive and causes so much chaos for teams that and they get out in transition and get easy buckets, and I don't know, they just have a full mastery of what Rick Pitino's trying to do out there that I don't think it's that much of a concern for me.
I would say that
I don't think it's that much, but it is if they're trying to win a national championship. But I think a Final Four run is very much on the table.
One thing that both St. John's and Michigan State do well, because the knock on both of them is their 3-point shooting percentage. Like St. John's is shooting under 30% on the year, but they don't shoot a shit ton of them. Is the one thing. Same with Michigan State. It's like there's teams out there that shoot very poorly, but they still know 3 is worth more than 2, so they're gunning. I think St. John's and Michigan State clearly have the common denominator of being a well-coached team. So whereas they don't shoot it well, maybe that doesn't kill them if they control the play of the game and don't have to chuck up a bunch.
And also they know that they don't shoot it well, and they know how to get easy buckets, and they push in transition and find their easy points along the way. But I think RJ Lewis could be a guy that, the team does not shoot well, but if they find themselves in a situation with 5 minutes to play and it's, a 2-point game. One, I think I made this point when I forget what game it was. Maybe it was Villanova or something. They incite so much chaos that in a situation where it's like a tied game, they're down 2, whatever, with 5 minutes to play in the NCAA tournament, I love St. John's because they're so comfortable with the chaos. And as the pressure gets ramped up and the arena is full of neutral fans, and you got just weird pockets of different teams that are playing, the next game, or they played the first game and they're playing a little bit later. And you just have all these weird mixture of fans that are starting to get into the game, and the energy in the place is filling up, and you know what I'm saying? Like there's just like a ball of energy coming for the final 5 minutes of this NCAA tournament game. I think St. John's is going to be like, we thrive in this atmosphere, whereas other teams are going to be shitting their pants. But then on top of that, I think when it comes to the offense, RJ Lewis can be that guy. So it's like, yeah, they might be 2 for 19 from the 3-point line, but in crunch time, they do have a guy that can score and get his, and I don't know. So I think St. John's, as much as I know what the end of their season will look like, it will look like, their offense just not being able to produce anything, and ultimately that's going to be their demise. I still think that they're Final Four good, and you look at like their season, they don't ever get blown out. They're going to be in every single game. It's impossible to blow this team out, even when they're down by 10 or 15. They're going to keep pressing. You have to be able to take care of the ball, make free throws at an elite level to put them away. And yeah,
I do like them. I do think they're Final Four good, but the one thing that we always go back to is with those 2 SEC teams being 2 seeds, St. John's is going to get tossed in with an Auburn or St. John's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just based on how the bracket's going to shake out. So if they are a 2 seed, welcome to Auburn.
Right. So you're hoping, if you're a St. John's fan, that it breaks open a little bit,
Yeah.
The 4 beats the 1, Maybe there's like a Gonzaga. Gonzaga's made 1,000 Sweet 16s in a row. They might be like an 8 seed. They pull off they get like Florida in the second round, or Gonzaga gets Houston in the second round, and they knock off Houston.
I tell you what,
the bracket opens up after that.
When I think St. John's, I do think Connecticut's going to see him in the Big East Championship, and when they shake hands, Pitino's going to tell Dan Hurley, "Hey, go beat that 1 seed for us."
Yeah, but they can't. Wait, no, yeah, St. John's won't be able to be in Houston's. Yeah, you're right, because that'll be.
They're going to either be in Florida.
They're going to be in Florida or Auburn. Yeah, they'll be in Florida or Auburn's. So that's a fair point that you're worried about that with the Final Four run.
Just saying,
because those are 2 very good teams. Yeah, those are 2. Those are 2 very good teams.
Michigan.
What else we got?
State.
Michigan State. I want to talk about that. Let me talk about Reese's Peanut Butter Cups first, and then we'll talk about Michigan State. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are the perfect combo of chocolate and peanut butter. You can buy Reese's Cups basically anywhere. Feed your fandom. Reese's Cups are the perfect complement to the chaos of March, a drool-worthy combination of chocolate and peanut butter to go wild for with its mouth-watering combination of chocolate and peanut butter. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are a winning part of the game day experience. Eat Reese's Peanut Butter Cups and feed your fandom. And do it now. Do it right this second. Michigan State. So it's a phrase we keep going back to, but Michigan State had nothing to play for. They had already clinched the Big Ten championship at Iowa. Michigan was coming into the game, the reeling a little bit. I think that's fair to say. I think 100%. It's fair to say that Michigan is reeling a little bit. Was sort of in the same spot that Bama was in going to Auburn, where you'd lost your rival on your home court. You didn't just lose to them; you just looked like you're kind of at your rivals at a higher class than you were. Like they're just like a level better than you. And this was a great opportunity for Michigan to right those wrongs and say, no, we are actually one of the better teams in the Big Ten, and we are every bit a national championship or a Final Four caliber team that Michigan State is. We're going to bounce back. We're going to beat Michigan State. I feel like Michigan had a lot to play for. Michigan State kind of didn't, and Michigan State still came out and played like this was the national champ. I mean, they that's what rivalry is about. I fucking loved it. I love that this is what this Michigan State team is. They are completely bought in. They do not need anybody to explain to them the stakes of any of these games. Even the Iowa game, which they didn't play particularly well for most of that game. They came clawing back, and Trey Holloman is talking all sorts of shit. He was doing it at Iowa. Obviously, we're going to talk about the midcourt logo thing in a second, but I can't get enough of how bought in Michigan State is right now, and how distinct that culture is right now, and how this is just like I think Tom Izzo is obviously the Big Ten Coach of the Year. I think he's National Coach of the Year good. I think it's ultimately going to be Pitino, but I think Izzo has a very strong case for National Coach of the Year given the circumstances of this team and how much they are rolling right now.
Yeah, I mean, from the day that we joked about Michigan State losing to Indiana when Izzo had the chance to catch Bob Knight, since that moment, they have not just rattled off where they won 7 straight games to clinch the Big Ten by themselves. They did it at Illinois, Purdue, Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan again.
Yeah.
I was wrong about this team. This team is legit. This team, they ran their rival out of the gym on Sunday. And I think what it does, you talked about Michigan State had nothing to play for. Doesn't that just give another feather in the cap of Tom Izzo? Like his team, no matter what, it's senior day, that matters to him. It obviously matters to him. We're going to talk about it. It's a rivalry game. Who cares that they've got the Big Ten wrapped up? This team came in on a mission. They were up 50-28 at halftime.
Crazy.
On a team that really needs to turn around their season because they're limping it. I mean, I saw a stat. Michigan is the first team in 40 years to win 70% or 65% of their conference games and have a losing aggregate score.
Oh.
What did they finish?
No shit.
Michigan finished in the conference.
So over the totality of the conference
they finished 14-6 with a negative point differential.
They had a over the totality of the Big Ten.
14-6.
That's crazy.
That's bad.
No, it's Michigan State's approach to the game right now is inspiring, really. I think it's they have the right, how do I say this? Michigan State guys are the right amount of cocky. And they have been really all year, but especially now. And I'm with you. I remember when they lost to Indiana, I remember saying on the show, Tom Izzo, he's going to eventually pass Bob Knight, but you're looking at the schedule and you're like, when is this going to happen? Illinois, Purdue, Michigan, Maryland, Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan. That's the run they went on. They could have conceivably lost every single one of those games. If you're just looking in a vacuum at each head-to-head matchup, as you're staring at that schedule, you're like, oh, yeah, they could very easily lose at Illinois. Oh, they have Purdue? Yeah, I mean, Purdue's good. They could lose to Purdue. Michigan, yeah, lose it. Oh, my God, at Maryland? Yeah, they're going to lose. And I remember saying on the show, I was like, oh, holy shit, wouldn't that be something if Tom Izzo was one game away from passing Bob Knight and it took him a month to do it, and Michigan State just went on like a 5 or 6 game losing streak. They did the exact opposite. They are ripping through the best teams in the Big Ten, and they're just like stomping their foot on the gas heading into March. And that was one of the things I noticed against Iowa. I noticed again, it's been happening all year, but against Iowa and against Michigan, you realize like how, cocky is the word I keep going back to, but that has like a negative connotation. It's like the right amount of confidence. All the guys are extremely confident. You got Jackson Kohler like hitting dream shakes. Like Jackson Kohler's like posting up and going dream shake fade away from the elbow, and you're like, where the fuck is this coming from? And where it's coming from is just like how confident every single one of those guys are. To the point that Trey Holloman hits like 2 jump shots and then he's taking heat checks and airballing. But I love that he's airballing because it's like, keep that confidence flowing, man. Jace Richardson is obviously been a spark plug, and we talked about him a ton. But his emergence has probably helped a lot of that. I think the way he plays has probably lifted everyone else's confidence. But yeah, that was something else to watch, man. To watch a team that very easily could have given like 80% effort to just be going all out and delighting, just absolutely delighting and beating the fuck out of Michigan. And Michigan went on a little bit of run there in the second half to make the, I think they cut it to, I don't know if they ever got it to single digits again, but they cut into it a little bit. But there for a second, it was like, is Michigan State going to try to win this game by 50? That seemed to be what their mindset was.
And they just do it with their, like, I'm trying to go back. I've been scrolling. I can't find the last time Michigan State got out rebounded. Michigan State just bullies teams. They have their identity. They are well coached. Michigan has the 2 7-footers here. And once again, Michigan State plus 10 on the glass. I don't know. How wrong were we? Is this officially a Final Four team?
Michigan State?
Yeah, Jace Richardson is talented. We didn't say that at the beginning of the season. He came in 4-star, whatever, talented. They're bullying teams. They're out-rebounding teams. They are so bought into what Izzo is selling them. Final Four team?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to believe that they have a very real chance. Now, they're going to get Florida or Auburn probably in their bracket as well as their 1 seed.
Yeah.
How much does that matter? But I think Michigan State's at their best when they're in the NCAA tournament, when they're the underdog. I mean, that could be that would be one thing that I would actually be worried about with Michigan State is like they're playing almost too well. Are they peaking too soon? Even though it's March, they're peaking.
Yeah.
Which is why I think they might lose in the Big Ten tournament. That might be what if Tom Izzo loses in the Big Ten tournament, he's gonna be the happiest guy on planet Earth. I think he wants to lose in the Big Ten tournament. I think they're peaking too soon, and it's March 10th.
So they would play. Indiana's playing well. That's who they would have for this game.
But all the great Michigan State runs always seem to happen when they're not bad, but they're just kind of like a step below the group of teams that everyone expects to Final Four. I think there's too much heat on them right now. I think everybody's jumping on the Michigan State bait.
How can he pull an Izzo? He didn't do it.
He's got to figure out. He's got to figure out something. They got to lose in the Big Ten tournament.
Yep.
And get their edge back, but they still have their edge. So maybe I'm full of shit. I don't know, but of course they can go to the Final Four. Of course, they're well coached. They're all bought in. Their defense is legit. It's not. This isn't smoke and mirrors how they're doing this. Like you do point to the 3-point shooting as an obvious concern for them, but I don't think you look at this Michigan State season and wonder how they're doing it. I think at this point, like you see how the recipe, you see what the recipe is that they do play elite defense. They do get out in transition very easily, and they run for a team that can't shoot, their offense is still good.
Mm-hmm.
They still run great offense, and they have scores, and they have a ton of slashers, and the ball moves like crazy, and players move, and they set great screens. So like it's not exactly a fluke that they're doing this, is what I'm saying. It's not, even though you might look at the 3-point shooting and be like, oh, at some point they're going to lose these games because of the 3-point shooting. Yeah, they probably will. Everybody except one team loses in the NCAA tournament, but I think Michigan State is playing as well as anybody in the country right now.
I think they're very similar in identity to a St. John's, where there's just legendary coach. They know what they do well. They know what they don't do great. And they're not out there trying to fit a puzzle piece that doesn't fit, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
They don't shoot threes well. They also don't shoot a shit ton of threes, and they do what they do really well, and that's enough to win games.
What's their they're 28th on offense in Kim.
And a top 5 defense.
Yeah. Their defense is unreal, but they're shooting 30% from the 3-point line, and their offense is still 28th.
That's
in Kim Palm.
Tip of the cap. They know what they're doing.
But as far as the midcourt logo thing, give me your
we haven't talked about it
on this.
We've been saving it. I'll say this, Titus, and I can't believe I'm saying this. Is what Michigan did that bad?
I don't really think so.
I thought Dusty May, people are on Dusty May's ass for his post-game comments. I thought he was as spot on. If you gave me 24 hours to write a speech, I thought he gave a great speech, which is this. Michigan State earned the right to kiss the court and just rub our faces in their shit. They earned it. But also, if you're going to do that with time still on the clock, we do not have to vacate. Now, 100%, they did it on purpose. Don't tell me they didn't. Don't tell me they didn't know it was coming. But at what point does Michigan, if you're doing a senior night tradition, do you just get to script exactly what you want to do?
Right.
What if our senior night tradition was you get to take a lap around the court and then smack the other team on the... We always
My senior night tradition is fuck your wife. Let me fuck your wife. I want to fuck your wife.
You're not going to let me fuck your wife?
All the seniors at my school fuck your wife. Okay, so you need to...
I don't, and I think...
I'm with you. I think it was extremely petty of Michigan. They were antagonistic. You could argue they were even being sore losers, that they got their ass kicked and they thought, what way can we, lash out or act out? And, we obviously couldn't beat them in the basketball game. Can we be disruptive in some way? Let's just stand on the logo and fuck up this whole senior night tradition thing they have. At the same time, that's the definition of a rivalry. That's what rivalry is being extremely petty, getting under the skin of your rivals. I kind of have no problem with the behavior of anybody, really. I have no problem with them standing on the logo. I have no problem with Michigan State being really pissed off about it. But yeah, I don't think Michigan is. I don't think Michigan's. It's a similar thing to the Ohio State Michigan football thing, where like everyone said the Ohio State guys were being bitches for. It's like the Michigan was playing it a flat. Like what do you want? You want to just bend over and let them
100%
do whatever they want? Like of course you're going to be a little upset about it. So the same, I think the same thing is true of it goes both ways of just like, I think Michigan being upset and acting out and Michigan State being upset that Michigan was upset. It's rivalry. It's rivalry. That's my official statement on the matter. I don't think it was really that big of a deal either way. It was interesting. I think, it was something of note. It was something, if you're trying to argue that this is a rivalry that matters, you would point to an instance like this and say, like, like if this was Indiana playing at Michigan State in a similar circumstance, you think Indiana's players were standing? If Ohio State was playing at Michigan State and we were losing on Michigan State senior night, you think our guys would have stood at midcourt and disrupt the whole thing? No. Mm-mm. This was happening because of the rivalry. So yeah, I think it was like a cool or interesting moment for college basketball, but I didn't see it and be like, oh my God, what fucking assholes these Michigan players are.
Yeah,
such an ass.
And what I don't get,
it's kind of funny more than anything else.
I think we're on the same side completely, but I think we're in the minority on this. I think there's people out there that are saying that Michigan should have vacated. If you're doing it with time on the clock, Dusty May's right. If there's time on the clock, we are allowed to stand where we want during the free throws.
Right.
I'll say this. Michigan State, I love that Trey Holloman pushed. It's like, hey, this is our thing.
I'm fine with that too, yeah.
But also, Michigan State, you said it perfectly. That was a sign of sore losers. We just kicked your ass so bad on the court that you guys have to stand on our logo. I would have gone right in there not touched anyone, and just right between them kissed the court. That makes Michigan look like the bitches.
Yeah.
So I love everything about it. I don't – Michigan State fans, you're going to hate this. I can't believe that the takeaway from Michigan State right now is that Michigan was being the punks. I thought it was a rivalry.
Yeah, I guess they were being punked.
They were being
punked.
Okay,
but like,
not that.
Yeah.
Your rival doesn't have to do what you say when there's time on the clock.
That's really it. Yeah. Yeah, like I mean, in a perfect world, in a kumbaya utopian world, like we would all be, the sportsmanship would reign supreme, and we would all hold hands and think about our rivals and what they need and what they want, but that's not how sports work. And of course you want to get on your
and Michigan
your
State has this. It's an awesome tradition. It's great, but it is very cocky too to do with time on the clock. Like think if Michigan starts this rival or starts their tradition, and it doesn't have to be fuck your wife. It could literally be like, hey, the other team has to stand up and give you each of your seniors a standing ovation. Like Michigan State, you're not doing that shit in Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
No chance.
Yeah.
I do love the correlation, though. You said twice at the top of the show, the Ohio State-Michigan thing, the Michigan State this past weekend. You also had a couple of years ago, I believe it was Devin Bush, Michigan linebacker, was at the center of the Spartan tearing up the field, if you remember that,
yes.
digging his cleats in it.
Well, I think from Michigan State's point of view, that's probably it's less about this one incident and it's more about like the last 5 years, I don't know what the timeline is, of Michigan athletics as a whole, that there was fighting in the locker room and the tunnels and the digging up the Spartan thing, and it didn't involve Michigan State, but obviously the Ohio State flag situation, the Juwan Howard punching Wisconsin coaches, Juwan Howard and Mark Turgeon at the Big Ten tournament when they were fighting each other. I think from Michigan State fans' point of view, this is just another tally in the ledger of Michigan athletics transgressions. Michigan players being in their mind scumbags.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what this was more than anything else. Because if this was any other school doing this, first of all, no other school would have done this. But I think if Northwestern players were standing there and did this, Michigan State fans would have been upset about it. They would have been like, "Come on, that's our tradition, whatever." But I don't think it would have been this big of a deal. I think it's the rivalry, and it's also the last X number of years from Michigan.
Pattern of behavior.
Yeah, pattern of behavior is what I would say. But
it did allow me to get in my bag yesterday on my Twitter troll bag.
Yeah.
I was out here discussing that Michigan cannot lose with the class against their rival. Like, don't like it, beat them. I was out here photoshopping like Michigan lawmakers trying to make it a felony to like kiss the court.
It's a cool tradition. I like that Michigan State does it. I would agree that the time on the clock thing makes it an interesting thing because I was at the game. I was at Cassius Winston's last game in the Breslin Center. They played Ohio State, and I won't lie to you. I don't love this about myself. I'm gonna upset Michigan State fans. I'm a human being. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm a human being. We all have moments of like, you get a little upset. You see red a little bit. I'm sorry. I took a deep breath. I self-reflect. I try to fix my behavior moving forward. But when they were taking Cassius Winston out, as Ohio State was, he had an insane stretch, if I remember right. Like he just started hitting like insane shot after insane shot. Then he took like a heat check 3 that missed. But the whole place was like edging. They were just like Cassius, oh. They were so ready to bust, dude. And then Cassius missed the shot, and then I think they take him out, and he goes and kisses the court, and oh my God. I'm sitting there just like, this is taking 15 minutes, Tate. Get this motherfucker off the floor.
I agree.
This is taking, can we get on with the game? What is going on here? And I love Cassius Winston. And if it was anyone else other than Ohio State, I would have been like, that's awesome that Cassius Winston gets that final moment in the Breslin Center. And that was right before COVID happened. And then, that was one of his last games he ever played. But yeah, I do think that it does kind of take a little bit of time. It's a cool tradition.
It does. It takes a.
But I understand. I understand the opposing team's point of view of just being like, God damn, let's just get this game over.
How did you guys do your senior night? Did you do? Because I think you do it before the game, right?
Yeah.
You get your jersey and everything. There's Was it Indiana? I think it was Indiana. Do they do it after?
They do it after. Yeah, they've done it.
That's a little. Yeah, that's a little bit of a gamble. No,
they do player speeches. They've done it like that way forever. They do the player speeches after the game. Yeah,
which is cool. Which was perfect for them on Saturday. But if you lose that game and you're out of the tournament, that's a tough time to do it.
Yeah, I think that was the. I think Pat Knight senior night is when Bob Knight did the. What was his line? And I think that was the clip where he's like, "When my
hope they bury me."
Yeah, I hope they bury me upside down so the critics can kiss my ass. I think that was the Pat Knight senior night speech. When my time on earth is through and my activities here have passed, I want they bury me upside down so my critics can kiss my ass. I think that might have been the Pat Knight senior night. Yeah, they've been doing it that way forever. Speaking of which, Indiana is,
you have to talk about them. Talk about them. Do you see Mike Woodson?
Our program. You want to talk about the Indiana part or the Ohio State part?
All right, so it was a double bubble game on Saturday. I essentially believe it was a win and you're in situation for Ohio State and Indiana.
Cody wants me to read the Venmo ad, so I'm going to read the Venmo ad. Sign up for the Venmo. We'll talk about Ohio State and Indiana in a second. Sign up for the Venmo debit card in seconds and add your card instantly to Apple Pay or Google Pay to use your balance right away with no monthly fee and no minimum balance requirement. Pay in store or online with your physical card or a digital wallet. It is up to you. Earn up to 5% cash back at top brands when you shop with the Venmo debit card. The Venmo debit card works with the easy-to-use app you already know and love for paying your friends. Seamlessly split transactions with a few taps and manage your card settings right in the app. Safety is built into the app with 24/7 fraud monitoring, purchase protection on eligible purchases, and the ability to easily lock your card directly in the app if your card is lost or stolen. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank in a pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. DOSH offer terms apply. Start spending your Venmo balance instantly with a Venmo debit card. Sign up today at venmo.com/card/apply. Ohio State, Indiana, quickly. Ohio State's our program is dead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even saying this as a cop-out because, I know people come to the show for tears from me when things go poorly for Ohio State. I genuinely mean this. Like, full-blown apathy has set in where when we lost to Northwestern, I was despondent. I was fucking, broken. I was a shell of myself. Ever since then, I've just kind of realized this team just doesn't have it. We're not – I didn't allow myself to get excited about the idea of beating Indiana. At no point did I think we were going to beat Indiana. We were up 10 on Indiana, and I thought to myself, that might as well be a 5-point deficit. Mm-hmm. This team doesn't know how to protect leads. This team runs out of gas. This team is the opposite of clutch. And I think the program might be dead, Tate. I think the program is just wandering in the abyss. We, of course, still have a path to the NCAA tournament, and I don't even think we have to win the Big Ten tournament to get there. I think we could win a couple games in the Big Ten tournament, and we might be in, we might not. I'm telling you that until it happens, until I actually see us in the tournament, I cannot allow myself to get that excited about. The analogy I would use is that some people when their spouse dies, they want to get remarried right away. They feel too alone. They need that rhythm in their life. They need a partner or whatever. And from some outsiders, they're like, damn, you moved on quickly from your spouse dying. But, for other people, they're like, no, that makes total sense that you would do that. Others, the spouse dies, that's it. Your spouse might die in your 60s and you'll live another 30 years as a widow, right? I'm more of the second person. And I saw when we lost to Northwestern, my spouse being Ohio State in the NCAA tournament, it just died in front of my very eyes, and I can't move on. And I'm just still mourning, even though other Buckeye fans might be like, now we still have hope. We still have a chance. We could still. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not ready. And there might be a time, maybe we make the tournament, and I'm like, hey, she would have wanted me to be happy. And I'll get over it. But right now, it's whatever. Mm-hmm. The Indiana part of things, Indiana's low key. The last month of the season been an awesome story in college basketball, and Mike Woodson winning his last game in Assembly Hall. Even though I wanted Ohio State to win, I see the silver lining in that's a pretty cool moment for him, and the Hoosiers were very much deader than dead in the midpoint of the season, and they have played their way back in the NCAA tournament, and Mike Woodson gets to go out on good terms. Now, I do think he has to make the tournament for it to like full. If he makes the tournament, I don't think Indiana fans can really say a bad word about the guy and his tenure at IU. I think it all's well that ends well, and even if they lose by 20 in the first round or in a play-in game or something like that, I think it was a successful season. But what a turnaround it was, and what a way for him to end his.
Well, I don't know how you keep saying end. I don't know if you saw the interview afterwards. He said, maybe I'm leaving too soon.
Did he really say that?
After the game, he said, and he was caught up in the emotion of senior night, but I thought White Boy Rick, our good friend, had a hilarious tweet afterwards, and he was just feeling himself, probably drinking a couple beers, whatever it was, but he said, I can already see it now. 10 years from now, we're in the midst of just a horrible season. Indiana's been struggling, and all the fans look back and say, Woodson took us to the tournament 3 out of 4 years. Bring back Woody. It's like, I mean, they beat, since they lost, they lose 5 in a row in the middle of like January and February. They've beaten Michigan State. They've beaten Purdue. They've beaten Ohio State. I think they're firmly in the tournament now, win or lose against Oregon in the Big Ten tournament. The dude took over a program that was struggling and has taken them to the tournament 3 out of 4 years.
Yeah.
No,
and 500 against Purdue.
No chance that he
in those 4 years
pulls back.
No
chance.
No, there's no chance.
But also,
it would be funny. It would be funny if Indiana went to a Final Four somehow, miraculously, went to a Final Four, and then they have to make a. Mike Woodson's like, I want to stick around. But no, that's a cool thing for him. You know, being a former player, being a legendary player, and. It was trending towards like ending poorly for him, like with the fan base and the university and all that, and there would be a messy divorce. And it doesn't feel like that's going to happen. If they make the tournament, and it doesn't even matter how far they go, just make the tournament, bow out. It was a disappointing season. I think going into the season, everybody expected Indiana to compete for the Big Ten championship and certainly at least make a Sweet 16 and see what happens from there. It doesn't feel like they're going to do that. Obviously, they're not going to. They didn't come close to winning the Big Ten. So it's gonna probably end up being a disappointing season, but when you look back on the totality of the Mike Woodson era and some of the check marks, like, you know, beat Purdue, it was 500 against Purdue during Purdue's, you know, best run really in school history. The last 4 years or so has been an unreal run from Purdue basketball, and Mike Woodson found a way to go 500, makes 3 out of 4 tournaments, wins his last game in Assembly Hall. I don't see how you can be that upset about it if you're an IU fan. But yeah, Ohio State, I don't know, man. Yeah. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Genuinely sad. I think Oral Roberts killed us. I just go back to Oral Roberts, and I'm just like, that was the moment. That was the. I have no hope right now. Even I think we need 2 wins, so we'll need to beat Iowa, who we did crush, and then Illinois, who looks substantially healthier and better. But also the thing that I keep reminding myself is like, we're just not good. I just like. The depressing part, the part of where the apathy is set in, is that I don't even care to figure out what the problem is, if that makes sense. For the last since the Oral Roberts loss, I've been like fighting, trying to figure out how to get it back, or like what the issues are, or, you know, I'll talk to other Ohio State fans and we'll argue about how to fix it. Who should we hire? Should we fire Holtman or not fire him? Let's not fire him yet. Actually, maybe let's fire him. Okay, if we're firing him, who we're going to hire? Like, all these conversations are going on, and I feel like you're probably this way too, and I'm this way. And maybe like football winning the national championship has turned the Ohio State fans into this, where you're like, who gives a shit about the basketball program as much, which is really depressing to me. But I'm just at a point where I'm like, I can't find it in me to, like, you know, figure out what the issue. I think it's just general apathy across the board. I think the players have apathy. They don't seem to give a fuck. How can you be up by 10? The talent is there. The talent on this team is there. The talent has been there the last few years, I think. In general, like, we shouldn't be losing a lot of these games we're losing. So you're like, it must come back to coaching. Well, we changed coaches. So is it coaching or not? And you could say like Jake doesn't have the goods, but Jake was the guy in the Big Ten tournament when we were rolling last year. He had the goods then, and everyone was praising like how he's figured out how to get these guys to play hard. And then now all of a sudden the guys don't play. I don't fucking know, man. And I don't fucking know. And I say all that to say we're gonna do the show on Thursday as normal. I had talked leading up to it that I might let the Ohio State standing, the Ohio State's NCAA tournament standing, influence the schedule for this show, because I know Even though I try not to talk about Ohio State that much on the show, I know that I don't exactly hide my allegiances, and Ohio State being a bubble team, I thought that might make for compelling content in one way or another if it comes down to like a win and we're in, lose and we're out type situation. I'm at a point now where I just I can't count on us beating USC. I can't sit here and say that Thursday we're gonna
Iowa.
Or we're playing Iowa.
Yep.
I can't. I had USC in my mind because we were trending towards playing USC forever. I can't count on us beating Iowa. We were trending towards maybe doing the show Thursday night in response to, if we win the second round game, should we do the show after the second round game, or if we lose, I don't even know if we're gonna beat Iowa, so I'm not even gonna plan on that.
It'll be interesting though.
We're just gonna do the show normal as Thursday, and then we'll go from there and figure it out. So. Yeah, Big Ten tournament will be good though. I think
most intriguing.
They're a very intriguing tournament. I think
SEC.
a lot of teams have a. You could talk yourself into it. I see Rutgers having a possibility of going on the Ohio State run from last year. I could see Rutgers winning like their first three
because they got their path.
What's their path?
So they would start with USC. And
that's right, Rutgers, USC,
and then they would play Purdue, but then they get matched up with the Golden Goose, which is just Michigan.
Yeah,
in a reeling 3-loss-in-a-row Michigan team, and they're on the bottom side of the bracket with us. So they avoid the Michigan States, the Wisconsins, the UCLAs, the Oregons, the Indianas. It'd be interesting.
Rutgers, Purdue did beat the fuck out of Rutgers twice this year, though. So I guess any hope of Rutgers beating Purdue is just
hope.
It's just like rooted in the past few years when Rutgers seems to upset Purdue, but. Yeah, maybe not. But Rutgers, I'm just trying to talk myself into Rutgers making one last push with their 2 lottery picks. They have to win the Big Ten tournament to make the NCAA tournament. They're not going to do that. But what if they give us a moment like Ohio State had last year where it was like, oh shit, are they going to do it? Are they going to pull off 5 in a row? But if they have to play Purdue in the second round, never mind. Forget it. But Big Ten tournament should be good. SEC tournament, all of them should be good. I love this week. Some people are like, we don't need conference championships. Let's just get on to the NCAA tournament. I fucking love it. I love seeing all the small schools punch their bids, but also I think the power conference tournaments, even though some people believe that there's not much to play for, I think they're awesome, and it's cool to get a nice little appetizer for the main event. So conference tournament week is here. We'll be back Thursday morning as normal. I'm going to do my All-American teams, my Coach of the Year, my Players of the Year. I'm going to hand out some awards Thursday. That's what I'm going to do with Thursday's show. And then we'll talk about anything crazy that happened on the court as well. See you guys Thursday.